This is a book review for Kathleen Kopp's Strategies for Writing in the Science Classroom. And the book targets grades 4 through 8, even though I myself am a high school biology teacher. I teach 9th grade biology as well as AP biology. And I feel that my students, both my 9th graders as well as my seniors, would benefit from the strategies presented in her book. So I'm going to discuss the pros and cons that I found throughout. And the first thing that I found very helpful was that the book is modeled around the 5E model of instruction and addresses Common Core. So each chapter has a focus on the 5E model, which I'll get into in a few minutes. The book, for each chapter, presents about 4 strategies per chapter, and for each strategy includes very clear directions where I could go into my classroom tomorrow and implement it if I wanted to. She also provides great examples along with photos of student work and how you can apply them to the classroom. One thing I was very thankful for was that for each strategy, she not only included an example, but showed how it could be used in different disciplines of science, whether it's physical science or life science, or chemistry or physics, etc. She also includes templates for you. So not only does she show pictures of student work, she provides clear blank templates. So if you wanted to make photocopies and pass them out to your students, you'd be able to. Now, 2 of my favorite, the absolute favorite parts of her book was that for each strategy, she suggested ways to adapt it to meet your students' needs, whether they be English language learners or students at risk or even your students who are excelling. She has 1 or 2 paragraphs for each strategy and how you can use it to differentiate in your classroom. And the technology integration I absolutely loved. I'm going into my 10th year teaching, and I feel that I lack technology in my classroom, and so for each strategy she suggests websites and ideas of how to turn that strategy into a technological component of your curriculum. And so I am incredibly thankful for that part of the book. Now, I didn't really have that many cons. Really, my only complaint was that not all of the strategies are new. For example, the KWL chart and the graphic organizers, I think we've all seen in our credential programs or from coworkers. And so, but that's my only minor complaint about the book. Now, more on the 5E model. So as a science teacher, I love to plan my lessons around the 5E model of instruction, which the 5Es are engage, is the first one. So she has a whole chapter, actually chapter 2 is explaining 4 strategies you can use during the engage portion of your lesson, from opinion statements to making predictions, etc. And so in this chapter, she explains how to write, or for your students, how to get them to write to engage them. The next chapter is strategies for the explore part of the 5E model. She includes suggestions on how to incorporate writing into data analysis, lab investigations, and lab reports. She actually provides a wonderful template for digging deeper into a lab investigation. She poses very good critical thinking questions that get the students to write about the scientific process and the steps they're taking in their lab. Now, the explain portion, she actually divided into 3 separate chapters. So there's a whole chapter on vocabulary strategies, which was very useful, and I know for certain I'll be using them in my AP biology class, even though they'd work just as well in a 4th grade classroom. And so, okay, so there's a chapter on vocabulary. There's also a chapter on reading and writing in the science classroom. And then lastly, listening and thinking. And now the listening one I thought was interesting because I use videos online for my students to study at home, and she provides strategies on how to get your students to write during video. So whether they're watching videos at home or they're watching them in their classroom. So I found all 3 of these chapters incredibly useful for the explain portion of the 5E model. The elaborate chapter, she suggests not just project ideas, but how to increase writing in problem-based learning, in collaborative projects, and suggests ideas on how you can get your students to go deeper into the material while writing at the same time. And as you can imagine, the evaluate part of the 5E model kind of happens throughout the whole entire process, whether it's, through formative assessment. But she also includes a chapter on rubrics, because I know as a science teacher, I'm not really trained on how to grade writing. And so she suggests doing what you're comfortable with, and so provides templates for rubrics as well as like a point system of grading the writing. And so I found that chapter very helpful because I am new to writing in the science classroom, or at least increasing my writing in the science classroom. Okay, so to summarize, I highly recommend this book for any teacher's professional library, not just science teachers. I find the strategies can be used in any subject, especially like the vocabulary chapter, the listening and thinking chapter. It can be applied towards history or math or art even. And so I think it's a great book, not just for new teachers, but also for veteran teachers. As I said earlier, it's my 10th year teaching, and I know that I will be taking the strategies into this upcoming school year and really integrating them into my curriculum. The book does a great job adapting varying strategies we may have seen before into Common Core as well as inquiry in the science classroom. So again, I highly recommend Kathleen Kopp's Strategies for Writing in the Science Classroom.